Hi, my name's Charles Sabine. This is Palm Springs, California. Scientists here this week are demonstrating how at every level of research into Huntington's, new ground is being broken, from clinical trials to understanding the very process of how our DNA alters the course of the disease. With the growing interest in HD among both academic institutions and pharmaceutical companies, demand for seats at the CHDI Therapeutics Conference has reached unprecedented levels. Among a blitz of clinical trial updates, Pfizer announced that early human trials of its PDE10 drug showed significant promise. This is extraordinarily exciting.
It's extremely exciting for us too. I mean, you know, Pfizer has been in this indication for a very modest 5 years. We've got 4 studies, as you know, 2 completed and 2 ongoing. And being able to bring positive data to our meeting, you know, this year for me is extremely exciting. It's a very short trial. It was 28 days. And as you may know, we've got the Amaryllis study that is 91% enrolled now, where we're going to be looking at a 6-month study, same dose, same drug, and that will give us a lot more information. By next year, we'll probably have a lot more data to share as well. So I guess our next turning point is the end of this year, reading out on the Amaryllis study.
The conference was also told that the much anticipated Ionis-Roche ASO trial has begun. And up until now, everything's gone as well as could be hoped.
Exactly, it has. Up until now, everything has gone exactly as we had hoped. We hope to find out if the drug is safe and tolerated, and that's the most important aspect of the current trial. So I think this is an enormous step forward. It's the beginning of potential therapies to lower the Huntington protein. And we're hoping to have completion of the study by September next year. We will then do a larger study in a larger number of patients to try and see if the drug itself, the ASO drug, slows disease progression in Huntington's disease.
Further up the research pipeline, there's a sense of convergence in where the points of focus should be. One is the role of DNA in HD, more complex than previously thought. Scientists like Ray Truant are looking for genes other than Huntington in our DNA which affect disease progression.
What we're trying to do is mimic what nature is doing in a certain population of HD patients. Some HD patients will get sick very late in life relative to others who were born with the same CAG expansion length. And if we can figure out why there are differences between those people and other people, or for example, people who get sick much earlier than they should, we can try and tweak all of that with chemicals and try and shift everyone up to a late onset of disease, or potentially no disease.
Researchers are recognizing the most crucial pathways, chains of biological events which can be targeted by drugs.
What we've got now, as of this summer, in a published data set, is something referred to as genome-wide association study. In other words, we have looked at thousands of people with Huntington's disease, and we've looked at the other genes that are in these people that make a real difference on the age of onset of that disease. And what all of that is pointing us to is not very many pathways, and they all have to do with DNA and the quality control of DNA. And these are pathways that we definitely know from other diseases such as cancer that are druggable. They can be targeted. And this is very optimistic for us. That's led us to a certain amount of confidence and focus and convergence. There's been convergence from several labs across the world coming to very common pathways, and it's been really summarized at this conference so far. In order to be certain of Huntington's disease effects, we need to look at Huntington's disease, and we need to look at people. So these samples that people are providing in terms of cerebral spinal fluid or skin or blood samples are invaluable in this.
And that's where measures called biomarkers come in. Research into them is speeding up clinical trials and improving their accuracy.
Now, those biomarkers initially are developed using experimental animal models of Huntington's disease, but we need to make sure that these technological advances and these biomarkers work in humans, and therefore people who volunteer to donate in this case, samples from their cerebrospinal fluid, have been essential in us knowing that the technology can work in a human context. There is a large ongoing multi-center collaboration called HD Clarity. The patients can participate by donating a sample of their cerebrospinal fluid, which will then be analyzed for the levels of Huntington that are found. The trials are smarter, the trials are better powered, and the trials will give you a definitive conclusive answer, so nobody's time is actually being wasted. And I think that's a fundamental shift in the way we're doing studies nowadays for mental indications, such as Huntington's. We are able to assess whether lowering of mutant Huntington, for example, is having a restorative effect on those changes. And I think that's very exciting because you can track people over time in a very non-invasive manner and see how their brain is responding to the medication, which we hope is the first step towards a clinical improvement in their symptoms.
Another exciting area of research, parts of the brain that control mood symptoms. Those brain circuits are now being identified in animal models.
There may be ways to partly use the brain circuitry to try to figure out how to modulate those pathways. That's what we're after. So we're using every method we can to modify those pathways in animals with the hope that pretty soon those modifications could be done in a gentle way in people.
Anne Graybill is just one of several prominent scientists recently attracted to HD research by the pace of progress.
Just the rate of acceleration, just the speed with which important new things are coming along it's really stunning. The field of biology has exploded. Part of that explosion has hit this field really, really hard. It's wonderful.
Not only scientists here are excited about the new research, representatives of HD family organizations also recognize the opportunity before us as long as we play our part.
There is a palpable excitement from the scientific community, and I think it's also shown in the collaboration. I don't understand the science at this meeting, but I do feel the progress and the hope. The scientists hear you, they know how important it is to move the treatments forward, and from this meeting I can walk away with confidence saying that it's closer. It may not be tomorrow, but it's closer.
For families, I think it's really important for them to know that they can play a role no matter what. So they can play a role by registering for Enroll HD. That is a wonderful, huge global database. So it's a critical thing they can do right now.
The involvement of HD families, whether it's blood samples, whether it's signing up for Enroll HD, getting involved in clinical research, that's where the treatments come. All of the scientific news that's presented in any model that's not human is limited. And so at HDSA, and I know it's shared by this entire sort of congregation of scientists that comes together, is this recognition of the limits of anything that isn't a human experience, and therefore the, I think, heroic recognition of the families that do get involved.
The science is very exciting. It's progressed, but none of this would have happened without them. So they play a role in this. They play a huge role in pushing science forward and contributing to science. It just wouldn't happen. It's a hugely collaborative community with no borders, and we all help make it happen. And our Canadian families and families globally need to be very proud of the fact that we've come this far because they've dedicated their time, their cells, they've dedicated anything they could to help.
Astrid Arneson and Sven-Olof Olsen represent HD families in Europe. Their keynote speech opened the conference. They talked about the dark places to which they, like many affected families, have been.
You can be very negative and think nothing's going on, but when you come here and see all the work being done, all the enthusiasm, everything is focused on one thing: solve the problem, not for the scientist, but for you and me. And that's fantastic. That's really important. They are here, not for themselves, but for you and me, as HD affected people.
The future perspectives are good for sure, and the future will be much, much better than the past. So that's really important to remember. Everybody growing up in HD families or had their history from that the future will never be the same, for sure. And when treatment gets coming, probably a little by little, but we need to involve in it and to really hope for it and go for it.
What would you say to those families in Europe who don't get the chance to come here?
I have only one message. Don't give up. We are going to be the winner in the future.
I can hardly speak about what it means to have met the families and the patients who have Huntington's. It certainly has greatly influenced my own field, my own work. It's why I work on the system I work on.
In recent postcards, I've talked about the excitement of scientists at this conference. Well, this year, I go one step further. I have seen on some faces genuine emotion that a new age of hope is dawning at last. Watch this space.